done all those things, what needs to happen after that is to, trigger the relevant playbook. So as you can see over here, I only have one running instance, and that's my automation platform VM, right? What I'm doing now is that I'm gonna run the template to create the EC2 instance. So, I specify the key pair, right, to use for the instance. I specify the instance type. The AMI image itself basically is going to point to the Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8, right? So that's our AMI image. The security group that I have, right, which region, right, I can have a drop down, it's up to me to select, which subnet ID of the VPC, right, the instance name, right, I did mention earlier on that we'll be using this particular private IP address, right, and after which, you just have to hit launch. So what it does at this point in time is that it is going to spin up a container, right, that has the image that we have defined for the execution environment and perform the actual automation itself. It creates a ENI in Amazon Web Service, right? And after which it is going to create the virtual machine itself and attach this to the virtual machine, right? So that's what is going to happen. So you can see over here that it's deploying the virtual machine. If you hit refresh, you can see that the virtual machine has been given the name and that it is actually initializing, right? It's starting up. So you can see that the machine is almost up, right? It's just initializing, it's in the running state, everything looks good. Let's just go back and we can see that we have already finished running this playbook, as what we saw earlier. So then the next thing that we do is to deploy the database on it. I'm defining a few extra variables over here, right? The database name, the user, the password, etc. So basically, I'm going to leverage on the community.mysql collections that's available in Galaxy to do the deployment of the database. So this is going to take a while as it runs through all the steps that is needed in order to deploy the database. All right, it took about a minute to install the database. So now that the database is up, right, the next thing that we do, right, is to make sure that we run the deployment of the application, right, on top of OCP. So let's just check over here that we don't actually have a demo project. What Ansible is going to do is to set up the demo project as well as to set up to deploy the application inside the demo project itself, right? So over here, we know that the IP address is this. So the next thing that we do is we want to make sure that it is able to connect to our VM, right, which is actually a database, right? So we define the namespace, right? We point to the image, right, that has been created, right? So Bright has already uploaded, so I'm just reusing it. We specify the DB password, username, and all those. This is for generating the configuration files that we will be using in OpenShift. We specify the route that we will be using as well. Right? So once everything is good, we just hit launch. So it's going to deploy the namespace and to deploy the application as well. So let's just go back to the projects. It's creating secrets and the deployment YAML itself. So we can see that this is created, right? We look at the workload. Right now, there's nothing yet. Okay. Right. So you can see deployment. Right. So let's look at the pods. You can see that it has come up, right? So let's just look at the routes. It has been created as well. So if you go back to Ansible Tower, right, everything has been created. It's all good, right? And then if you just open up the link, So you can see that the application is up, right? It's that simple. Let's just do a very simple check, right? If you do a get, you do execute, you actually manage to pull the information from the MySQL database that we have connected externally, right? So that is a VM running in AWS. And over here we have OpenShift. We have the application running on top that connects to the external database, and everything is working as expected. So it is actually very simple, right, to set up everything, be it on the OpenShift environment or on the external virtual machines, databases using Ansible. And this is the end of the demo. Thanks for watching.